to the special counsel and is more than happy to tell the special counsel all that he knows.
So Michael Cohen does not have information that President Trump knew about the Trump Tower meeting with the Russians beforehand, or even
No, does not.
And by today, Davis was in mea culpa, quoting, "I should have been much clearer that I could not confirm the story on the Trump Tower meeting. I take the responsibility for not communicating more clearly my uncertainty. I regret the error." Remember, late last month, both CNN and the Washington Post, citing unnamed sources, reported that Michael Cohen witnessed Donald Trump being informed about the Trump Tower meeting and also witnessed Trump give his approval. The Washington Post has now updated its story, naming Lanny Davis as its source. But CNN is standing by its story, saying they are confident in the reporting, which might surprise the Senate Intelligence Committee, who interviewed Cohen extensively about Russian interference in the campaign. But those familiar with Cohen's testimony reportedly say he had no information about the Trump Tower meeting. The president certainly wasn't letting Lanny Davis walk back without notice, tweeting, quote, "The answer is that I did not know about the meeting, just another phony story by the fake news media." Lanny Davis also indicated that Michael Cohen had information that Donald Trump also knew about Russians hacking Democratic emails. Now Davis isn't so sure about that one either. Shannon.
Yeah, I think his quote is, "I'm not sure." Trace Gallagher,
Sure.
Thank you very much. For more now, Fox News contributors Jessica Tarlov and Charlie Hurt are here to weigh in. Jessica, I'll start with you. These are not minor points to stumble over.
No, they definitely are, and especially judging by how excited everyone on my side of the aisle got when we heard that Michael Cohen had knowledge that President Trump knew about the Trump Tower meeting and had given the sign-off here. I think it's going to become increasingly difficult for CNN to continue to dig in their heels on this one, especially with the retraction of the Washington Post, and I believe the New York Post as well has updated their story. We'll see what goes on. President Trump is going to call them fake news no matter what, but best to not add fodder to that claim. Get your story straight, and so we can move on to, you know, what Michael Cohen will say tomorrow.
Well, and here's the thing, is that Michael Cohen now, as a witness, this comes into play because if Lanny Davis is getting this from his client, Michael Cohen, then that raises all kinds of other questions. The Washington Post, Aaron Blake, writing this: "It's damaging to Cohen's credibility. Davis is his lawyer and spokesman after all, which means these claims effectively came from Cohen himself. Cohen wasn't a fantastic witness before. He's a worse one now." Charlie's been laughing since we started the segment. I guess we should let him talk.
It's true. It's true. He isn't even, unbelievably, he's actually a worse witness now than he was before. But, you know, last week, it was a rough week for Donald Trump derangement syndrome sufferers. You know, you had the verdict in the Manafort trial, the conviction in the Manafort trial, and then you had the guilty plea with Michael Cohen, and everybody went into absolute hyper overdrive hysterics, thinking that this was all going to lead directly to the impeachment of Donald Trump. But when you clear away all the underbrush, you find out that, well, the Manafort trial had nothing to do with Donald Trump, and the Michael Cohen stuff is at best pretty troubling. The accusations leveled by a troubling witness, and the idea that Michael Cohen knows what FEC laws are and which ones, what campaign finance laws the president violated. If he's proven nothing, he's proven he's not a very good lawyer. So, you know, a week later, it looks a whole lot different than it did last week.
Jessica, does it feel different to you?
It feels a little different, but not quite as different as it does for Charlie over there. I personally don't think that I suffer from this Trump derangement syndrome, though everyone on Twitter seems to think that I do. I do think that last week was a big deal. I know that the president's approval rating is unchanged in the NBC News Wall Street Journal poll that came out.
Does that surprise you at all, Jessica?
It doesn't surprise me because I've learned in a post-Charlottesville world to be surprised about nothing in terms of the approval rating.
Just about anything in general. Inside the Beltway, no longer surprised about anything.
Right.
Right, but what I do find interesting is when you look at the trends, for instance, in the Fox News poll about the generic ballot going into the midterms, or how the issues are playing out, that the President Trump is now only favored on managing the economy, but falling underwater in health care, national security, et cetera. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm looking at. His personal approval rating, I mean, his base certainly is into him. I think the Gorsuch voters are still into him, and we're going to talk about the Kavanaugh nomination.
Let's do that. I want to get to that. Brian Fallon, obviously linked Hillary Clinton. Demand for justice is where he is at now. He's former press secretary for Clinton. He says the fight against Brett Kavanaugh, these hearings start next week, is winnable, but only if Senate Democrats quickly unite in opposition so we can focus on pressuring a Republican to break ranks. At this point, it's absurd that there are still more than 24 Democrats on the fence about Kavanaugh. He's the most unpopular Supreme Court nominee in 35 years, and it's time to fight his nomination with the urgency it deserves. Charlie, I got to say, though, on the popularity question, 99% of people outside the Beltway have no idea who Brett Kavanaugh is if you say that name. So I don't put too much stock in that.
Yeah,
but
and any of these polls are kind of, I'm very suspicious of any of them anyway, especially when they delve into something as sort of arcane as this. But, you know, I think that the Democrats are going to have a hard time at this point mounting a very good opposition to him, as Fallon himself noted. If you have half on the fence about him, then that means that they haven't really made the case that he's as bad as some people claim that he is. And then, of course, add on top of that, for 30, 40 years now, Democrats have played this game, judicial nomination fight game, by claiming that people will die if a certain judge gets on the bench. And after 30, 40 years, and they've been very successful at it with a lot of nominees, starting with Robert Bork. But my goodness, at some point, people get tired of that argument because it's absurd on its face. Right. And so, you know, I think that's all of that explains why they're having the trouble.
We got to leave it there because we're out of time. But listen, the hearings kick off next Tuesday. Come back and talk to us about that, because then we'll have some actual statements and information from the nominee himself that we can debate. Jessica and Charlie.
Thanks a lot, Shannon.
Thank you very much.
Charlie.
All right, who will replace John McCain in the Senate? We've got a live report from Arizona on who may top the list after the passing of the longtime senator and war hero.
In more than 30 years as a senator, he never failed to marshal a razor-sharp wit, a big heart, and, of course, a fiery spirit.
Plus, we're learning more about the site in the deadly Florida